Okay, a lot of people wanted me to make a video on how to install a Minecraft server on the $25 phone, like I showed off in the other video. So I'm going to be going through from scratch. I just opened a brand new one of these. So we're going to be going through from scratch how to install everything to get a Minecraft server working on a $25 smartphone like this. Again, you can use any Android smartphone for this. You could use a used one that you have, but it's kind of cool that you can pick these up for $25 right now. So anyways, we're going to get started here. First things first, there's going to be like an onboarding thing that you have to go through when you unbox this. You can click no on a bunch of stuff. You don't even have to sign into Google if you don't want to. It's going to ask you to install a bunch of bloatware. It's going to do it kind of anyways. You can uninstall it later. Don't worry about that. First, we're going to go to settings. So we're going to go to settings. We're going to do a few important things. Number one, for me, I'm going to turn the display so that it never turns off. That way, while I'm recording, this never turns off. There we go. Now we're good. And then we're going to go back out to the main settings page. And from here, go all the way down. We're going to turn on developer options. We need developer options on so we can connect the phone to the computer to install a few necessary apps. So first, we're going to go to About Phone, and then Device Identifiers. And then we're going to click Build Number. And we're going to click this a few times until it says you are now a developer, or it might ask you for your PIN. So we're going to enter our PIN. And then it's going to say you are now a developer, which is cool. And then we go out again to the main settings menu, go to System. In System, there's now developer options. So from here, you want to make sure it says developer options on. And this is the classic. If you've done this before, this is the classic, like turn on ADB and everything. So we're going to turn on USB debugging. We're going to allow USB debugging. This is going to allow us to plug this into this phone into a computer and get a ADB connection to it, which is Android Debug Bridge or Android Device Bridge. Basically allows us to install things from a computer. So you'll need a computer and you'll need to have installed ADB. I'm not going to install ADB in this video because that would take too long, but you can either do it through installing. You can install Android Studio in your computer and it'll probably add it there. Or there are ways just to get the ADB exe if you're on like Windows, or the ADB binary on Linux. And so once you have that, what you want to do is take the phone. I'm going to put it right here for the remainder of the video just so we have it in frame. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a USB cable that's plugged into my computer and plug it into the phone. This is going to allow us to use ADB. Again, this is so that we can install the Termux application, which is the main terminal emulator where we're going to install everything in. So it's going to ask if we want to allow debugging. We're going to allow it. You can also get around doing this ADB step and just put the files on the computer or onto the phone. That is a way to do this. I'm just going to do it through ADB because it's simpler for me. But if you want to just plug your phone in to a computer and then drag and drop the APK files, you can do that, drag and drop them onto the phone, and then in the files application of the phone, you can install them. But I'm just going to do this through ADB because it's simpler for me. So first, go over to GitHub, get the Termux application. So the Termux application is kind of the main application that we want. It is the Linux environment that we can put on the phone to give us something to run all these applications on, like the Minecraft server. So it's going to look like this. Well, what you're going to want to do is go over to, let me bring it down a little bit so you can see it. Go over to Termux app, then go to releases, and then releases, find the one that says ARM64. So the one that says ARM64 is the one you want. Click on that, download it. You're also going to want to look at, when you're in Termux on GitHub, you're going to want to look at Termux styling, because these phones, they have terrible fonts for Termux for whatever reason by default. So also go to releases on the Termux styling app and install that as well. So I'm going to go over to Termux styling and click that to get it in your downloads folder. Then we're going to pop open a terminal window, and I'm going to do ADB install. Well, first I'm going to do ADB devices and make sure we have a device. So ADB devices should start a ADB server, and it should say that your device is there is present to make sure you could do ADB shell if you wanted to, and then you have a shell into your computer, ls, there it is. Okay, good. I'm going to exit out of that, and I'm going to run ADB install Termux. First, I'm going to install the Termux app. So click install that, let that go through. Again, this is going to put the Termux application on, and you don't have to do it through ADB. Like I said, you could put the file on the APK file on the file system, and then open in the Files app the APK and install it through there. But this is just simpler. What did it say? Oh, it failed because I have to bypass something. Let's do that again. So it says more details. It's going to say some security risk thing. Let me take that down so you can see it a little bit better. We're going to click install anyways. If it ever says this, just install anyway. We're just going to ignore all the security concerns that modern Android has for us. All right, so the next thing we're going to install is we're going to want to install ADB install Termux styling. So get the Termux styling APK. Okay, go ahead and install that. Press enter. That's going to install, same thing. It's going to be like, hey, this is not safe. It is safe. So install anyways. That's just because it's not signed by like the keys that they have on the Play Store. It's just on GitHub, so it's like signed with debug keys or something. All right, with those two apps installed, what we're going to do is we're going to pull up and look at Termux. So I'm going to go and grab Termux, put it over here, and you'll see there's no app for Termux styling because it doesn't actually have like a app icon or anything. And then we're going to click on Termux, and then we're going to be into, it's going to ask for a bunch of things. We're just going to allow notifications. Do allow notifications because it does need to take like the notifications tab or whatever to start properly. Okay, in here, if the fonts don't look good, which they don't really look good to me. So I don't know if you can see that. They don't really look good to begin with on this device. Maybe they look good on your device and you can skip this step. This is just for styling. But I'm going to hold and click more and then style and click style, choose font. I'm going to switch to Deja Vu Sans Mono. Just looks a lot better. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, we have fonts. It looks good. What we're going to do now is get into the part where you have to type commands into the phone. For this part, you can type. There's only a few commands we have to type before we're going to get SSH and then be able to do commands from our computer. But you can do all these commands just on the keyboard. I'm going to use a tool called Screen Copy, SCRCPY, which is a really handy tool that allows us to basically have like a mirror of the screen, and we can interact with the screen on our computer as if we're touching it, but we're touching it through our mouse and keyboard. So I'm going to run that because that's just way easier to do that than touch all of the buttons. Although it's not that hard for this step because there's not much that we have to type in before we have a computer connection. Okay, so you can see the, let me just correct this a little bit. So you can see the terminal there. We have Termux pulled up. This is the full Android phone. So you'll notice if I like go out, this is the full phone. So we'll go into Termux. Okay, so on Termux, I'll zoom in here so you can see. So the first commands we need to do, we need to get a SSH server on here so we can connect through, over SSH on our computer. That way we can type everything in. It's much easier to manage. So the first thing I'm going to install, or the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in package, PKG, that's their package manager on Termux. We're going to do a package update, and we're going to do ampersand, and then package upgrade. And that's going to both update all the packages, the list of packages we have, and then upgrade them, which means to install them. So this might take a minute. I might clip if it takes too long, but while that's running, I'll just mention a few things. So yeah, this is running on this is a $25 Moto G 2025 that you can pick up at Walmart. It's kind of an amazing deal that they have these. Previously, they had this other one from 2024, Moto G Play 2024. You can still pick this one up for $30. Hopefully, they just keep having these really cheap prepaids. I'm not sure. Again, they're looking to get people to sign up for the mobile plan so they can make their money back, but you don't have to do that. You can just use it for cool things like this. So that's what we're doing in this case. And it's really cool. I mean, you get a full 4 gigs of RAM. It's got a 120 hertz display on it. It's got like an 8-core CPU. It's kind of like a Pi, but it just comes with a bunch of sensors out of the box, which I think is kind of cool. That you have all that. Oh, there might be some dialogue things that we have to do through here. You can just put in for all of them or click enter, because it's not that important what we're updating here. There is some limitations on what we can do on Termux, and again, Termux it's a terminal emulator we can install on Android and it has like a Linux environment in it, but it has limitations because it's obviously an app. So that means it's a like Java application running on Android inside of the sandbox that Android puts phones into. And because of that, there's certain things we don't have access to. We don't have access to, I'm typing in the dialog things. We don't have access to some of the kernel space stuff. We're kind of limited to user space. So there's some limitations there. Full Docker support is not necessarily available, but there is some workarounds I'm looking into. There's one interesting thing called Prut distro and Prut Docker, and those kind of allow you to get around some of these restrictions, and maybe you can run Docker containers. But anyways, that's just something to look into. All right, now that that's installed, we've updated the packages. The next thing I'm going to do is install OpenSSH. So package install OpenSSH is the SSH server, and this is going to allow us to SSH into the device, get a secure shell into the terminal emulator app, Termux. Okay, we installed it. Next thing we need to do is just run it. SSHD is how you run that. Okay, it's running now in the background. Okay, now we need a few details, because what we're going to try to do here next is we're going to try to SSH into this phone. But in order to do that, a few details. One, we need to know who we are. We need to know the username of the terminal emulator. So looks like it says, who does it say? And I'll bring that down so you can see. Who am I? U0A458. Okay, so that's one important detail we need. And then the other important details, we need to know what is our IP address on the local network that our phone and our computer are connected to. We need to know what the IP address of the phone is, though. So I'm going to type in ifconfig. This is going to give me the IP address right here. So again, username and then IP address. Those are the important things. And what we're going to do is I'm going to, in this window, so I have a new terminal tab. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do SSH. I'm going to type in, the next one is going to be, let me look at my notes so I don't mess this up. SSH-P for port 8022. So because this is Termux and not like a normal SSH daemon installed on a computer, it can't use port 22, which is the traditional port. So it has to use port 8022 because it doesn't have access to those like ports 0 through 1000. So anyways, that's why it looks kind of strange if you've done SSH stuff before. So then the username, mine was U0_A458. And then our IP address, let's pull that back up. What was our IP address? 192.168.1.87. So now I'll type that in, 1.87. Okay, and then last thing we do before we hit enter and open up a shell into the computer, or into the terminal emulator, what we're gonna do is set a password, because this user doesn't have a password to begin with, and we need that for SSH login. So set the password to whatever you want that password to be, and then go back to your terminal window on your computer and hit enter. Oh, I put a slash there. Hit enter, yes, to save that, and then type in your password, and you're in. So we are in to Termux. So we no longer need to like type things on the screen if you were doing that and you didn't use screen copy, or if you were using screen copy, you no longer really need to do that because we have everything we need through an SSH connection now. So I'm gonna go ahead and minimize screen copy, and yeah, we'll leave the phone there just for the rest of the video so you can see the phone at the same time. Okay, let me shrink that a little bit. All right, so now that we've got a shell into Termux, again, this is not, we don't have a shell into the actual phone. This is a shell into the Linux environment that Termux, the terminal emulator, /Linux environment thing app gives us. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to install something called Termux. I recommend you do this just because it makes the terminal more comfortable to use. It's really hard to like copy and paste things into a terminal. Oftentimes that just doesn't work very well. Or like things like scrolling aren't native in a terminal. Termux gives you a lot of that. It also adds like a window pane system, which I'll show you. It's really just a nice to have thing. So I recommend you install it and try to use it. So it's pkg package install Termux. So we'll get that going. Okay, now that we have Termux installed, we're going to start a Termux session. So everything in Termux is like a session that you start. So I'm going to do Termux new session -s, and then we're going to name it. So we're going to name this session main. You can name it whatever. You can name it fire, something else that you want to do. I'm just going to name it main because it's easier. So Termux new session -s. Let me increase the font a little bit so you can see better. Let me zoom out a little bit. And then, okay, so we created a new session. So I'll just show you here. We have this, back to this one. We have this session here, this Termux session. And the cool thing is it adds support for, if I right click, I get this cool little menu. I can kill, respawn, mark. I can vertically split, which is cool. Now I have two windows and they're in the same, terminal. I don't have to have a new terminal tab or something if I wanted to do two operations. So I could have something running in the second one, like top, which shows us, top is going to show us all of the like processes and what compute power they're taking and how much memory they're taking and everything. And then at the top, I can just go about my business doing the things that we were doing, like installing stuff. So Termux is really handy for that. The other cool thing about Termux is I can actually attach to the same session on the phone. So that's how I can have it mirror and have the phone look and see the same things as the terminal window that we have on the computer. So I'm going to do that just for fun. So it'll show up. So Termux attach -t main, and that will attach. So now they're looking at the same exact things. So the same things that are happening that I'm doing on the terminal window I have on the computer is happening on the, you can see it happen on the phone. And I'm going to shrink that keyboard so it's all the way down. And we'll go kind of more out like that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So now that we have that, I'm going to go and install the rest of the things that we need for the Minecraft server. So there's a few things to install. I'm going to copy these over because it's easier. So package install, we need to install OpenJDK 17. So this is the Java JDK. This is the like runtime and SDK for Java, which is what the Minecraft server is set up as, and the language it uses, the framework it was built on, and everything. So we have to use that. And then curl and wget are going to be useful things to install for us to download the jar file, the Minecraft server actual executable binary that we need. And then JQ, I don't actually think we need that for that, but I have that copied into my command thing. And then NeoVim is the other one that we need because we might need an editor to edit some files. All right, so we're going to install all of those. And we'll wait for those to get done. Again, there's a bunch of other things that you can install on here. I know we're doing this over kind of the Minecraft server, but you could install all sorts of things like a backup sync, node that you might have, or you could host some websites, on the phone itself. It's kind of in that space where it's got a lot of compute. There's limitations, but if you can get around some of those limitations, there's really cool things that you can start to do. So yeah, maybe in other videos I'll explore kind of installing some of the other services, and I want to see how far I can get into installing Docker and containerization in general, because once you unlock getting containers on a device like this, then some of the you can get around some of the limitations that you might have installing stuff like natively to the system. So that's kind of another advantage that we can have. You might notice on the phone that it's got all these dots here. That's because we're mirroring, and because of the like font and size difference of the windows, it does this thing. If I expand this, you'll see it actually, like, to make it the same aspect ratio, the terminal window, the same aspect ratio as the phone, you'll see those dots start to disappear, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, mirroring across terminal windows is an interesting thing to do. I think it just looks cool, though. All right, so now that we have the JDK installed, we're going to create a directory inside of our main home directory that we're in here. So we're going to do make dir make directory -p. We're going to make sure with tilde that we're in the home directory that we want. We're going to call it Minecraft, or MC for short. And then we're also going to do another operation in the same command where we change directories into that directory that we create. You can do these as two separate commands, but this is easier for me. All right, so we just got this blank directory now. And now here's the fun part. So we have the Java JDK installed. That's like the main runtime thing that we need to install to run this Minecraft server. And we have Java installed, and we can verify that by doing Java version. There it is. So what we need is we need to download the jar file for Minecraft. So I'm going to use PaperMC. So PaperMC is a Minecraft server. I don't know. It just seemed like the easiest one to grab. There's others, like a built-in native one that you can do as well that like Mojang has. There's other ones with other names that I don't really know. But we're going to install this one. I already have the link saved, but you can find all of their downloads in here. It's paper. And then they have some, if you want to look at an older version, you can. Now, one thing to note, we installed the Java JDK 17. And the thing about that is it only supports up to, Java JDK 17 supports up to Minecraft version, 1.20.4. So anything above that, you need Java SDK or JDK 21. And that's a little bit more difficult to install on this environment, this Termux environment. So just note that you have to use an environment lower to that. I'm actually going to install 1.18.1 just because that's the one that I used to play Minecraft on a lot. And it's the one I'm like most familiar with. So that's why I'm using that one. But yeah, you can use other environments if you wanted to. All right, let me pull up the window again. So yeah, let's see. On here, we are going to, and I'm going to have a GitHub gist file with this in here, but we're going to curl, which means to get this HTTP link and get the file from it. And we're going to output it as paper.jar. So anyways, yeah, I'll have this saved, but you can find the other ones just in that downloads page if you want. So, there's always like notifications on the phone because there's all sorts of prepaid wireless service things on there. Okay, so that installed just fine. So if we look, ls, we have the paper jar thing. So, okay, the next thing we want to do is, while we're here, I want to make sure that the process isn't, that Termux isn't killed accidentally by Android. So I'm just going to do Termux wake lock. And it's going to say let on the phone. It might say let app always run in the background. Just hit allow there. That just allows us to run this in the background and not have to worry about things like if the phone went off or like the screen turned off or things like that. Okay, so we have that paper.jar file. That's the main Minecraft server jar file we need. Now what we're going to do is run Java. So we're actually going to run the file. And then we're going to set a minimum set of RAM. So I'm going to set 512 megabytes of RAM minimum, and then maximum set of 1024 megabytes. So that's like a gigabyte of RAM. It's a jar file that we're running to run. So we do the -jar option, and then we do paper.jar, that's the file. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to do no GUI because we don't want any GUI to try to open because we're obviously in a terminal emulator, so we don't have any graphical interface like compositor or something that could handle that. So yeah, that's the safe way to run that. So that will download, I think it downloads like the Mojang server because PaperMC is like I guess the way I understand it is it's an extension and it's got some optimizations built on top of the Mojang server. So it downloads that first. and does a few things to line up. You might get an error in there where it says there's a particular like shared object file not found. You don't have to worry about that. That's just like a text. There's like a text thing that they're trying to put on top of it when it runs, but we don't really need it for anything, so we can ignore that. Okay, so it's going to also fail on saying the EULA wasn't signed, which is fine. We're going to sign it by using the file. So if we ls now, we'll notice that there's a EULA file. What we need to do is just change the EULA file to say true inside of it. To do that, the easiest way is probably to do neovim. Actually, let's do it with sed. That'll actually be easier. So you can run, you can use a editor to edit the file, or you can use this command. Again, I'll have it in a GitHub gist. So this is sed-i, and then we're looking inside of this file for EULA equals false, and we're changing it to EULA equals true inside of this file that we're inputting, eula.txt. So once I do that, that changes that file, and we can even look at the file, and you can see it says true in there. Again, you can edit that any way you want to. And then what we're going to do is run the Java command that we ran earlier again. And this is going to now finish the process of running the Minecraft server and should get us to the point where it's actually starting to run. So that might take a second to load everything in. But after that, we'll have everything that we need and the Minecraft server will be running. So at this point, you want to get your, to get ready, get your Minecraft client up. You want to be on the same version that we installed. So the one I'm going to have in the gist, the GitHub gist file, that's like a document describing all these steps, is I'm going to have the link to the 1.18.1 version. But again, you can use other versions as well, up to 1.20.4, because that's where you have to use Java JDK 21. So just be aware of that. Okay, so it's doing all of this stuff. You can see it's like starting a server on port 25565, which is the default Minecraft port. It's doing all this stuff to prepare the spawn area, and everything is getting started there. And okay, it should be done now. Yeah, okay, so that is good. The other thing to note, so I have, because I'm running Termux, I have top running down here, and in top you can actually see that the there's it, the Java file, or the Java jar file that we're running is taking up 29% of the memory right now and 196% of the CPU. Well, now 400. The CPU percent is not exactly accurate. I don't know exactly what it's measuring because we're running inside of Termux, so it can't be accurate to like the exact CPU of the Android device. But that is something to note. This does run quite heavy on this thing, so that is kind of just one thing to note on there. Yeah, and it may say something like it can't keep up with the ticks. I noticed that when it does the initial load in, it may say like it's running behind or something. I would just let it sit for a second. I noticed it went down after some initial time. You can also preload some of the chunks. I'm not going to do that for the sake of brevity on this video, but that is something you can do, is preload chunks with Chunky or something, and that might save you some time. Okay, so we need to connect to it now, and on Minecraft, do a direct connection, or actually we'll just add a server and we'll call it $25 phone 2. This is the second one I have. And then the IP address, we can get the IP address from SSH in the second window pane on Termux. I'll do ifconfig again just to remind myself what the IP address was. And the IP address is 192.168.1.87. So we're going to take that and we're going to type that in, 192.168.1.87. The port we need is 25565. That's the default port of Minecraft. Okay, and you can see we've got a solid ping to it, so it could at least ping the server. Now I'm gonna, on the terminal window, I'm gonna open up top because I do want to watch the CPU when I open this and see what it goes to. Now we're sitting at like a cool 66% on the Java file, so that's good news. A little bit, it's not taking up as much now. So yeah, we're gonna Oh, wait. Okay, it's making me... Oh, I've got to restart my launcher. Okay. Yeah, 1 second while I restart my launcher for some reason. All right, let me get that loaded up real quick. All right, launcher is coming up soon. The client's loading. And again, yeah, it does take like some initial time before the CPU does go down. So I don't immediately join it. Wait like a minute or two. Then it seems to do better from there. One thing I haven't done is I haven't load tested with a bunch of people running on the same server on the phone. That is one thing I want to try next. So I'll be trying that again soon. All right, let's go here. Okay, yep. So let's connect to the phone. Joining world. Okay, and you can see on the thing that player joined at that time. So I've joined into the game. Here I am running around. Let's see if I break a block, how long it takes. Yeah, okay. So it's caught up now. The ticks are running at like a rate that seems acceptable. Maybe there's some stats or something. Can't remember how all that works. Yeah, some stats somewhere that will show you the tick rate or something. But yeah, so we're now connected, and this is kind of the complete tutorial from going from you take the phone out of the box to you get Termux running, and you get that running with SSH and everything, to installing the Java OpenJDK, downloading the jar file for the server, running the jar file for the server, and then getting into it in Minecraft. From here, you could take it, you could run a bunch of other services on here. You could run some websites, or at least have like a backup server for running your websites. Yeah, the world's your oyster. There's a bunch of other things you can do outside of Termux on a cheap $25 phone like this. Anything from running some like ML models, using like TF Lite, TensorFlow Lite. I think they renamed it recently, but yeah, there's just a bunch you can do. Maybe even turn it into like the brain of a robot or something. That's another thing you could try to use this hardware for. But anyways, hope you enjoyed. Again, this is how to go from, scratch. You pick up the phone out of the box to getting a Minecraft server installed. So thanks for watching.